We can all look at our families and say that they are awful, that they are difficult, that they are just simply unreasonable people. But I don't want to do that in today's video. What I want to do is highlight, some of the things that you could have experienced that were unhealthy, that was toxic, that was dysfunctional, harmful, that maybe you haven't thought of. And I want to talk about why it's relational poison. I call it relational poison because every relationship, family, romantic, work relationship, friend relationship, whatever, has to have at its foundation, at its core, a healthy place. There has to be healthy communication, healthy open communication. There has to be a give and take. It has to be reciprocal. And the foundation of the relationship just can't be based on one specific thing. So in today's video, I'm going to highlight the toxicity of family relationships, of loving relationships, and then I'm also going to give you some things that you might want to think of to detox. Let me briefly introduce myself in case you're new to the channel. My name is Tamara. I'm internationally and I'm board certified in trauma therapy. I'm licensed in mental health. I specialize in treating children, teens, and families, as well as adults who are dealing with trauma right in my private practice. Let's go ahead and jump in. Anytime I get a family in my practice, the number one thing that I look for is how is this family communicating? Even if it's a child or an adolescent or an adult child coming to me for treatment, I still want to see that dynamic between the child and the family. One of the reasons why is because families often are the most important part of our lives. They are the number one thing that we have in our lives as soon as we enter the world. We enter the world through birth, and the very thing that we have is a mother and a father, right? Whether the dad's there or not, we still are born into a relationship. We are born into the world as a child to these parents. And then as we go on and experience life growing up all throughout the lifespan of early childhood, middle childhood to adolescence, we are still encased in relationships within the family, outside of the family. It's just one of the most important things that we can have as humans to develop appropriately. But what do you do when those relationships are unhealthy from the beginning? And how do you manage that? In a household with a parent who may be very depressed, may have bipolar disorder, may be manic, angry, hateful, hurtful. They may even be a sociopath, a narcissist, right? How do you conceptualize what that parent does to you? And once you finally, if you ever, make sense out of it, right? How do you live with that reality? For a lot of people, they move on. They move on. They leave. They say, this is not working for me. I don't want a parent-child relationship like this. I don't want a family relationship like this. I'm out. And so then that's when family estrangement tends to occur. They don't want anything to do with those family members that have hurt them over time. And I consider that detoxing. Detoxing, in my own words, is the process by which we recognize that there's a problem, we see what it has done to us, and then we take actual practical steps to either release ourselves from that entrapment, from that hold, or we walk away completely and we shut the door because we know that if we stay involved, there's going to be some consequences. It's not going to be good. One of the things I also discuss with my families, and I want you to kind of think of this as well, is what is the role that I play in my family, right? And what are the roles around me? How do they impact my life? How do they impact my development? How have they impacted me, right? So an example of roles would be someone that is triangulating and manipulating in a family. You can consider that either the scapegoat, right, or the troublemaker. In family therapy, in the world of family therapy, there's a list of family roles that identifies each role that we tend to play in our families. And one such role is the scapegoat or the troublemaker. The scapegoat is blamed for all of the problems. They may or may not be a troublemaker within the family, but they are blamed with all the problems. But the bigger issue is that the entire family dynamic is a mess, not just that one child, right? Or not just that one adult child. You can also think of a family role in terms of a hero or a rescuer. Now, Now, the hero and the rescuer often play similar roles. The rescuer tends to stay back most of the time, and they only jump in when they need to. The hero does the same thing. They swoop in and they rescue. They take care of things. They stay on track. They schedule things. They keep everything organized. They keep the family together. They really do a lot for the family. Typically, heroes are older siblings or grandparents, something like that. The doer. Now, the doer is the individual who just jumps in. They don't really process and consider things. They just jump into their role. They know how to jump into action when it's needed. You also should be aware of the mascot or the clown family role. That's the individual who thinks everything is a joke, right? A death happened in the family, that's a joke, right? Or they're at the funeral, instead of crying and processing, they're somewhere in the back telling jokes or laughing or being distracted by talking to someone, you know? A mascot or a clown in a family could also be dad never takes anything mom says seriously to him. We resent him because everything we tell him is a joke. That's an example of a mascot or a clown. You also want to consider the lost child role. Did I play that role? Did you play that role? Did my brother over there play that role, right? Asking yourself these questions can be helpful in detoxing. That's the first step for detoxing from an unhealthy relationship, is figuring out what your role is and what that other person's role is. So let's say you're the lost child in your family dynamic. Well, the lost child is someone who kind of stays back away from everything and everybody. They don't really participate because either they're afraid to, or they're intimidated, or they just don't feel they have a place. They tend to be quiet and really not know what they want to do with their lives, right? This is the sibling that stays in mom's basement for the rest of his life because he doesn't know what to do with it. This is the sibling who becomes the artist and the architect and then sits in the basement because he's too afraid to make a move. And the last role here that you want to consider is the peacemaker or the mediator. That's the individual who, very much like myself, would play the role of making sure that everything is calm, making sure everything is clear, trying to get everybody to connect and be open in their communication, trying to make the peace. So what are some roles that you think that you should kind of be aware of if you're going to detox from the family system? Because once you pull away from the family, you know, things are going to kind of collapse in a way that maybe you're not aware of. An example of things collapsing, for lack of a clinical term, would be, you know, maybe you step out of the family circle or the dynamic, and grandma stops paying your light bill or your phone bill. Or somehow Child Protective Services is visiting your home because there's concerns about your mental health and you having to raise your children. There may also be different family members stepping in, wanting to know, how can we help you? How can we support you? Why aren't you talking to your mom? Why aren't you talking to your grandma, right? You may also find triangulation at the core of you trying to detach, right? Or detox. There may be grandma and mom who's kind of in cahoots. They are clicked in, they are connected, and they're going to both come at you and try to get you to come to your senses and not walk away, or detox, as I like to put it. So you want to be ready for that. In what way will my family react to my behavior? In what way will my family react to my attempt to detox from them? You also want to think of what we call adopted survival mechanisms, meaning that over time, different individuals around you or in your family or the person that you're in a relationship with, they have developed survival mechanisms over time. And sometimes when we try to escape from a relationship or we try to pull away and go somewhere else, those survival skills kick in. And it could be creating chaos, confusion, begging, right? Sharing that they are, you know, fearful of abandonment, threatening suicide, threatening homicide, right? They could do something like, you know, engage in self-injurious behaviors. Whatever the case may be, right? You want to be able to consider what's going on in this situation here, and do I need to be aware that once I start to detox, this person's going to act this way, or this person's going to, you know, really blow this up and exaggerate this and make things worse than it is. Understand that once you detox, there's going to be a change in attachment styles. Now, within a family, this really makes clear sense to me. Let's say, for example, and I'm going to give you this as an example. that your mom decides, I don't want to be a part of this family anymore. Instead of your dad leaving, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go get an apartment and I'm going to be over there. You can visit me if you want, whatever. That relationship between you and your mom that was once very close now has become separate, because now you've been aware of the fact that your mom doesn't really want to be around. And even though she's trying to move on and be in her own life over there and she welcomes you, it still feels like she's walking away from you, right? She's not detoxing, she's just walking away from you. And it could make you feel very unloved. So that once very close, secure attachment is now a very distant, insecure attachment. And it's going to change the dynamic of not only your family, but how you operate. There's also this family members who have an excessive need to control. Once you pull away and attempt to detox, they're going to want to control you. So you want to keep that in mind. Now, controlling mechanisms could be triangulation. It could be pathological lying, right? Saying things about you that's not true. It could be rallying people on their side and getting people to walk away from you. Manipulation, just you know, straight manipulation. I'm going to manipulate you into feeling guilty. I'm going to manipulate grandma over there, over there, and hope that she goes against you one day. I'm going to manipulate how you see that person, right? So you want to be able to step back and say to yourself, once I detox, this is going to be a different situation here, but can I manage what's going to happen as a result of me walking away? You also want to look at the fact that unhealthy competition is likely to continue. You're probably going to deal with a sibling who wants to compete, and they're going to do it probably this way. They're going to cling to that parent. You detox, you walk away, you create your own healthy life over there. That other sibling is probably going to attach to your mother, to your father, and become even closer. And so the competition isn't necessarily, you know, in a way where you can see it, but it is happening because now they get to be the closer ones to your parents. Now they get to be the ones, right, who mom and dad love the most because you're over there moving on. So competition sometimes becomes a difficult piece of the puzzle, and parents end up sometimes turning against that other child that walked away and that went over there, and they cling to the children who are still there in their presence. I also think too, it's important to understand that once you detox or you walk away completely and you get away, during that process of detoxing, which is slowly pulling away and becoming more independent on your own, there is going to be some kind of minimized or ignored piece of the puzzle. So, for example, if you were abused growing up, or you were neglected, or you have a narcissistic parent who has put you through narcissistic abuse, you're going to want to detox and walk away and create a new healthy life over there. But don't be shocked if that family member that you were walking away from, that parent who's unhealthy, who has abused you and neglected you, now begins to minimize what you say is the reason for walking away. And they try to put their own 2 cents in there, right? So an example of this could be your mom has been very abusive to you over the years. You decide to walk away. Your mom then talks to the rest of the family and tells them that you have always been entitled, you have always been insensitive, you have always been arrogant, rude, disrespectful, the list goes on. You're having a hissy fit, and this has nothing to do with the dynamic between you and her, right? So that's step number 1 of that process of minimizing what you've told the family is your reason for leaving. And it's also a way to get everyone to kind of ignore your needs. The other piece of that is now they've caused the family to kind of look at you again and have all these question marks, wondering why you decide to walk away. Maybe you really are entitled. Maybe you really are rude. But the reality is that this parent is detrimental. They don't see that though. So they've already caused your family to minimize the issue. And the more they talk about you, which is part number 2 to this I'm going to say devious move, because I think it's so evil. Part 2 to this is once they start second guessing and questioning, the next time you communicate with them, it's going to be a very distant kind of communication. And they're probably going to take that information back to your mom, who then is going to say something else that's worse than what they said about you to begin with, right? So in a sense, they are creating like this profile of you. They're building it little by little. And although you're trying to get a healthy life over there, that parent or that family member is now creating this new toxic situation for you. So is it going to be easy for you to come back if you decide to come back? Probably not. Probably not, right? So consider all of these aspects. For those of you who weren't with me on Friday during my live chat, go ahead and click into this video right here. You can catch that live chat. I talk a little bit more about that dynamic in that video. Thank you so much for being with me in tonight's video, guys. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button to get more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.